Hi, this is Sue Jackson here with another Friday Reads. And of course, we are now in the midst of Big Book Summer. And if you like my mug, you can get one just like it. I actually, because this is the 10th anniversary of my annual summer challenge, I created a bunch of fun products. I also got a car magnet, which I'll show you. So yeah, if you're participating in Big Book Summer, you can grab some things for yourself. I made notebooks, different size mugs, the car magnet, tote bags, t-shirts. So you can go all in on Big Book Summer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just very briefly, Big Book Summer is a challenge I host every year. As I said, this is the 10th year, so it's a big one. And the idea is very simple. It's just to use those lazy days of summer, even if, like me, yours are pretty busy, to read some bigger books. It all started 11 years ago when I realized that my book groups both took a break during the summer and that I'd have time to tackle some of the bigger books that I'd been putting off reading. That first summer, 11 years ago, when it was just me, I read Pillars of the Earth, which is, I think, over 1,000 pages. Loved it. And what else? I think that summer I also read The Passage by Justin Cronin. Not 1,000 pages, but a bigger book that my husband had been saying I'd love, that I'd been kind of putting off. So that's the idea. It's to read a book or multiple books that you've been maybe putting off, that are either on your shelves or on your TBR that you've been meaning to read and haven't gotten to. Now, a big book is just 400 or more pages, so for some, not that big. And you only need to read one to participate in the challenge. Though you can do what I did, and I pull a big stack off my shelves, anything 400 and more pages. And then I've got lots of choices during the summer. That's how I like to do it. But plenty of people just choose one big book or two that they want to tackle. You've got the whole summer. Between now, it started at the end of May, so between now and early September, lots and lots of time to read your big book or big books. So the key is you set the goals yourself. It's whatever you want it to be. I'll link down below to my Big Book Summer Challenge video, where I explain the challenge and show you what I've chosen for my big books for the summer, and also offer some suggestions on big books I've enjoyed in previous years. I will also link to the challenge page on my blog, which has all the details and is where you actually sign up. So that's the Big Book Summer Challenge, and that's what I am fully into now. So I just finished Dark Sacred Night by Michael Connelly, which I talked about last week on Friday Reads. It was excellent, and I was right. It was the perfect way to kick off Big Book Summer. It was only 420 pages, so small as big books go. And it was a very fast-paced thriller. So I finished it in a week, which was pretty surprising to me. But that's what how fast those kind of books read. So for my next big book for the summer, I went with I choose a classic every summer, a big book classic. Last summer it was Anna Karenina. The summer before it was David Copperfield. Both of those were enormous. This one's a little more doable. I chose The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I think it's like about 500 pages. Yeah, a little under 500 pages. Everyone, including my husband, has been telling me for years what a great book this is. So I decided to finally pull it off the shelf and read it. So I'm not very far into it yet. Even though I've had several days, I've just had a really busy week, and I do most of my reading before bed and before my afternoon nap, which is a daily necessity because I have a chronic illness. And normally I can read like 20 to 30 minutes before my nap, 45 minutes to an hour before bed. And this week it's been like 5 minutes and I can't keep my eyes open. So I haven't made too much progress yet. Let me see. I'm in chapter 7. So I don't know a whole lot about it yet. I know that it's about a man held prisoner. And because I've read 7 chapters so far, I know that he is being held unfairly. He didn't actually do anything wrong. So the main character is a sailor named Edmond Dante. And things are going really well for Edmund at the start of the book. He is first mate on a large ship. They come into port at Marseille, and during the journey, the captain died of a fever. So they come into port. Dante's been running the ship since the captain died as first mate. They meet with the wealthy man who owns the ship, and Dante explains what happened. The man just thinks Dante's a great guy, an excellent sailor, a good leader. And he tells him, even though he's, I'm trying to think, 19 or 20, even though he's so young, that he's going to name him captain when the ship leaves again in 3 months. There's an accountant on the ship, the purser, who is not a friend to Dante, though he doesn't realize that. He's jealous. He wants the captaincy. So that's going on behind the scenes. He's trying to talk to the owner of the ship and, say bad things about Dante. And so Dante's first day back on land, he visits his father, and then he goes to visit his girlfriend. And they have decided they're going to get married. So Dante's just come back from this long journey. He's been promised the captaincy of this ship. He loves sailing, and he just is thrilled with being named captain, or almost being named captain. He is totally head over heels in love with his girlfriend, and she loves him too. They immediately plan their wedding for the next day. They're sitting at this big feast. Oh yes, there's one other character. The best friend cousin of his girlfriend is actually in love with her. And though she has turned him down multiple times and said, we're just friends, we're just cousins, he is incredibly jealous of Dante and wants to get rid of him. So you've got 2 suspicious characters there. So they're sitting at their betrothal breakfast when police come in and arrest Dante. And within 24 hours, he's been taken offshore to this island prison that is supposed to be like for the worst of the worst offenders. And he has no idea why this is happening to him. He knows that this is all taking place just after Napoleon's reign, when Napoleon has been exiled to the island of Elba. And all that Dante knows is that someone wrote an anonymous letter accusing him of being a follower of Napoleon, which was an imprisonable offense at the time. Now, his first talk with I don't understand all these like old French positions, but he's like a lawyer or judge, I don't know, somewhere in there, in the legal system. And Dante's first discussion with him leads him to believe he's going to be cleared of the charges. But then all of a sudden he's being taken to this offshore, impenetrable prison. So that's the setup. I'm not very far in yet, but I'm enjoying it so far. Sometimes you worry with a classic that it might be harder to read, that it might use arcane language. None of that is true. In this case, I am, really enjoying reading The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And hopefully by next week, I'll be able to tell you a little more about it. Now, I go all in on Big Book Summer, so that means my audiobooks are also big books. Yes, audios count, ebooks count, graphic novels count, any kind of book. In terms of audiobooks, I just look them up online, see how many pages the print edition has. So my first big book on audio for this summer is A Light Too Bright by Samuel Miller. This novel came out a few years ago, and somehow I just missed it. I had downloaded the audio from the publisher, but I guess I forgot all about it. So something about it appealed to me, but then I forgot all about it. It turns out it was a very highly critically acclaimed novel. I just don't remember hearing about it. And I'm loving it so far. So it's about a young man. He's 18. His name is Arthur Lewis Pullman III. And Arthur's grandfather, the original Arthur Lewis Pullman, was a famous writer. They paint him as kind of Salinger-esque. He wrote his first novel, in his case his only novel, when he was very, very young. And it made such a splash in the literary community that 50 or 60 years later, it's still being taught in high schools today. So, and then, he never wrote another book. He became something of a recluse. So Arthur has never read his grandfather's book. He only knows him as his grandpa. And 5 years ago, his grandpa he had Alzheimer's, pretty severe by that point. His dementia was pretty advanced. And one day, I think in the early morning hours, he just snuck out of the family house and left. No one knew where he was. He was missing for a full week, and then he showed up dead in Ohio. Obviously the police found him dead in Ohio. It wasn't a zombie situation. So no one in Arthur's family knows what happened during that missing week. Now, Arthur himself is going through a really rough time. He's lost his best friend, his girlfriend, his car, his college scholarship. His life is just in a shambles. And his dad wants him to stay in the family home with his aunt and uncle for the summer. But his very first night there, Arthur finds a journal written by his grandfather just before that week that he disappeared. So Arthur, and the writing is, he wrote it in the throes of dementia, so it's kind of disjointed and hard to understand, but Arthur takes that journal with him and leaves, catches a train, and tries to follow his grandfather's footsteps on this last journey that he made. And that's the basic premise of the book. It's Arthur spending a week following his grandfather's footsteps. Along the way, of course, he is learning a lot more about his grandfather that no one in the family knew. Each place he goes to he starts out by what was mentioned in the journal. In each place he goes to, there's another, he calls them clues, but another bit of writing left behind by his grandfather that leads him to another place. So it's almost like a family scavenger hunt. But this really means a lot to Arthur. He loved his grandfather. His grandfather wasn't able to relate to him much in those last years, and this is really important to him. So meanwhile, though his father's worried about him, he disappeared without a trace, just like his grandfather did. So the police are after him. He runs into, I won't spoil anything, but the book takes a weird kind of turn about halfway through. I was happy to see it didn't go too far off the rails, but there are other people involved as well. Arthur had quite a fan base based on that one book. So I'm really, really enjoying this. I am loving, the young man discovering his grandfather. The written clues are really interesting. I think this might be a case where the print book is even better because I keep wishing I could go back and look at the previous things Arthur's grandfather wrote. Now they are read in the audiobook, but I'd like to flip the pages back and reread some of them. But whether on audio or in print, I'm really enjoying A Light Too Bright by Samuel Miller. And that's what I'm reading this week. I would love to hear what you're reading. All the information below is below for Big Book Summer. And please let me know what you're reading this week, what you plan to read this weekend.